I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I can.
This is Levi Cooper, and you're listening to the Sit Down Marks with DB, Primo, and AJ.
Welcome, everybody. A very special episode today for you. We got former WWE superstar on the podcast, Levi Cooper, but you know him as Tucker Knight, also known as Big Tucky from Heavy Machinery.
Yeah, guys, we had a great time. There were some great stories told there. You're going to want to hear it. Don't miss out. And you'll find out why he likes waffles more than pancakes. Right, AJ?
Why he is incorrect. We also spend a little bit of time, a surprising amount of time talking about hobos. We talk about hobos all day tonight. Very strange. However, fascinating interview coming up right now on Sit Down Marks.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sit Down Marks podcast, episode number 27. We have an extra special episode here today, boys. I know y'all are excited for this one, man. How fired up are we for Levi Cooper?
No.
No.
So excited.
We just went live. These boys are going crazy right before we went live. But let me introduce our guest here today, man. You know him as Levi Cooper, also a former tag team member of Heavy Machinery from the WWE. Levi, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I've been nerding out all day, and I've been trying to calm down and be like, all right, it's just Levi Cooper, it's fine.
That's right.
Yeah,
looking fucking great, by the way. How good does Levi look, everybody? I bet out there in podcast world can't see what we see, but if you're watching right now, you are. Levi's in shape, man. He looks ready to roll.
Absolutely. You look good, man. And thanks for being on the show once again. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It's awesome. So awesome. Okay, I'm calm now.
Yeah, let's have some fun, boys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking the time to join us here today, Levi. Let's jump right into it, man. Why wrestling, man? What got you started in this beautiful business that you were in and that we love to watch?
Well, to be truthful, I started with WWE because it was kind of the best opportunity at the time for me. I had just finished college and I had gotten an accounting degree. So, I was in conversations to potentially, wear a suit to work and go explain numbers to people at KPMG or Ernst & Young or something like that.
Sure.
And WWE gave me a chance. I had a tryout so I graduated in May. I had a tryout in June and ultimately got hired in July of 2013. And then started in January of 2014. And so, like I said, I watched it growing up, of course, during the Attitude Era. I was born in 1990. So, 99, 2000, 2001, we were hitting elbow drops and people's elbows, rock bottoms, stunners,
Sure.
The likes off the couches on the trampolines, what have you.
Yeah.
And then when I got into high school, I got pretty serious I knew I wanted to play sports in college. Originally, my main goal was to play Division I football. And so, basically when I got in high school, I kind of stopped doing or watching anything that wasn't about school or sports. Essentially.
Sure.
So kind of wrestling fell off a little bit for me. And I actually went to a Money in the Bank show. I want to say it was 2011. It might have been 2012. It was a Dolph Ziggler one. It was in Phoenix. I was going to Arizona State at the time, so I went to that.
What are the most popular outcomes of?
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember the place going wild. It was cool.
Yeah, he's holding.
Dolph's a good guy. He's the man.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Love Dolph.
He's awesome.
One of the best sellers ever.
Let's
talk about right before that real quick. Arizona State, right, is where Levi Cooper made his wrestling name. So how'd you end up at Arizona State and why Arizona State?
Oh, man, it's kind of a crazy story. So I actually I went to 3 schools. I started at Portland State my true freshman year, and then I went to Cal State Bakersfield for a year, and then ultimately ended up at Arizona State. And basically those first 2 schools both cut their wrestling programs the year when I was there. So it wasn't like I was messing up or anything, just
you were the
bad
Reaper.
luck essentially. And
like the whole wrestling programs were like, all right, we're done with you guys.
Yeah. Bakersfield ended up bringing theirs back, but Portland State's is gone and done still. 2008 was the last season. And I actually wrestled the very last match in Portland State wrestling history at the Pac-10 tournament that year. But,
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's good to take with you,
Yeah.
You almost got the program down.
Yep.
The last
That was
match.
the last one.
Dope.
The bookend.
Yeah. Bookend.
So, basically when Bakersfield had cut their program, I was just like kind of looking for places to wrestle. And Arizona State got on my radar because basically my heavyweight coach in Bakersfield, his younger brother wrestled for Sunkist Kids, which was out of the Arizona State wrestling room. And he just happened to be in Bakersfield. And he was like, dude, I'm in that room every day. And I'm telling you, like, you're better than all the other heavyweights there. Like, they probably don't have money for you, but like, you can come stay with me. And and so, I was very committed I wanted to be a Division I All-American in wrestling. That was like what I wanted to do. I was going to try to find a way to do it. So I packed up what I could in my Passat, drove to Arizona. I can still remember to this day, like pulling into town, going to Brandon Halsey's house. He wasn't even there. He told me he would be there, but he wasn't. Somebody dropped off a key to me. So literally the guy that I'm staying with, who I've only met 2 times, isn't there. I'm like staying in this apartment by myself in Arizona and just like,
like now what?
I'm a
I mean, it was a freeing feeling to some extent, I mean, obviously at that exact moment, I was kind of like, let's see what happens here, kind of a roll of the dice. Like, I haven't met anyone I don't know, but within a month, I was like, yeah, I know I'm going to be the starter here. Like, it cost me a lot of money, right? Like, I walked on that first year, paid full out-of-state tuition to Arizona State.
Oh, yeah.
Not cheap. And,
out of state is.
But, I ended up getting a scholarship after that,
Nice.
and having a lot of success. It was well worth it. And, man, it was like, I think it taught me forever to just bet on myself. It made moving out to Florida to try the WWE much easier, I think, mentally, because I was like, well, I've kind of already done this before, in a different domain, but I know what it's like to pack up all my stuff, go someplace where I don't know anybody, and try to get it done. Like I want to go give that a shot.
That's awesome. And you were an All-American too, right? Like
I was.
Arizona State?
Yeah, that first year I was an All-American actually. So
2011 NCAA championships, you finished 8th.
That's right. Yeah, and that was a great year. So my Anthony Robles was on that team, who's he was a national champion, 125, was born without one of his legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then at 157, we had another guy, Bubba Jenkins, was a national champ, and we got 6th to the team. So that was a pretty awesome 3 days. That will forever be in my memory as one of the thrills of my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're a pretty decorated athlete before you even step 1 foot into the performance center, man. So, had that not even came through, you're still a legendary wrestler, man. So, what were you gonna say, AJ?
What? So after that, so you did all this stuff at Arizona State, and then like you said, you went. You're just like, hey, why the fuck not? Let's go to Florida. And so once you got there, what was the performance center like? I mean, and these are things that I've always been so curious about.
Yeah.
So like you
stepping in day one, what was the feeling?
What's that like?
What did the place smell like?
Ball sacks, nothing but ball sacks.
It was. I mean, it underwent a lot of evolutions, right? So.
Sure.
I mean, so from the time that I stepped in to the time when Heavy Machinery went to the main roster and I left, there was only 3 other talent that had been there when I started, right? So there was like over 90% turnover, in that 5-year period that I was there. So that kind of like, just to give you an idea of, what the life cycle is like there and how frequent the landscape changes. It literally changes on a quarterly basis in terms of the people in the building. So the day one, so I actually had my tryout in Tampa too. So I was the last tryout in Tampa. So I hadn't seen the Performance Center before I moved out to Orlando because, like I said, I try out in the warehouse in Tampa. So obviously I think it's a cool facility. Like I said, the network had not begun yet. So the network started, I think, in February of 2014. So when I first started there, the network wasn't a thing yet.
Sure. Who was coming in with you? Who was the class coming in with you?
Oh, yeah. So Steve Cutler, now, what's his name in
Macklin?
TNA?
Macklin?
Yeah, Steve Macklin.
Macklin.
Thank you. Yep. And Elias Sampson.
Oh, wow.
And also Jody Christopherson. Chris Christopherson's son was coming in for his second time in the Performance Center.
Really, Chris Christopherson's son is around. See, I had no idea that.
I never read that or heard that. That's wild. I know who Chris Christopherson is. You young bucks know?
Yes, I know.
Of course
Chris
we do.
Jody.
Get out of here.
He was an awesome guy. He was a good dude.
Yep, awesome.
He actually teamed with Scott Dawson for a little bit in his first run in NXT.
So there's something I'm also really, really curious about. So I want to know about like the gimmick process in WWE. Like you see documentaries and stuff, but how does it really work? Does like Vince or creative call you into the office and they're like, "Oh, we got this spindle. You're a hobo man now." Like how does that work? How much input do you have on like the gimmicks that you create, or do they literally just like here's a bindle, you're hobo man now?
Yeah.
Like how does that work?
Or maybe explain where Tucker Knight came from. Like you,
there's a spectrum. I think it's a spectrum. Like in NXT, it's not the it's it was hands off in terms of like main roster touching it for basically my entire time there. For maybe my first half in NXT. The writings. Okay, so my first year and a half, Dusty was still alive. So he was like the head creative guy in NXT, right in the Performance Center, and then like Chris Chambers and a couple other guys who wrote TV on the main roster would come down like once a month and see promos, and then they mainly wrote TV with Triple H. So it wasn't like super connected necessarily, like kind of what people were trying out in the Florida scene, gimmick wise or whatever. Like, there was a little more freedom there, I guess, to, like almost akin to the indie scene of like, it was expected. Okay, so first of all, you're going to wrestle on the Performance Center shows for probably 20 or 30 matches, which is just going to be in front of your like peers, right? Basically. Sure. So that's how you start out first before you get any like armory matches or small Florida live events. So it's kind of a progression. And yeah, I mean, so, like I said, it changes and like Kevin Owens was the first person I can remember being like brought in, like, okay, we're bringing you in. This is your thing. You're going like this. You're like getting it. And then, and then kind of after that, it was a succession. I would say that was like the turn of when NXT went from being a developmental brand to when them saying like, we need to draw with this brand. And so now they started like bringing in guys that they thought could draw. And that also like made a fundamental shift in terms of kind of homegrown like talent,
Sure.
who hadn't necessarily wrestled or weren't like a big name yet, trying to kind of create a gimmick via the Performance Center. It's pretty difficult if you look at like single stars who, were brought in as not a big name and then created a gimmick and then went to the main roster and were successful. It's not. I mean, there's some females that have had some success, but there hasn't been a lot of males. Tag teams have had much more success, making that transition. Like you have American Alpha,
Sure.
Vaudevillains, us,
Wyatts.
the Wyatts,
Authors of Pain.
AOP, yeah, there's another one there too.
I'll throw in the Ascension too. I love the Ascension. I feel bad for them.
Yeah. Yep. And FTR too. They were homegrown too.
What do you think about FTR right now? Since you mentioned them hanging out in AEW, they're kind of killing it right now a little bit.
got a big roster there.
They do have a very big roster.
Yeah. I think they might need another show. But you talked about it real quick, Levi. Just, give us your time working with Dusty, man. What was it? What was that like?
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, baby. What was he like?
I mean, it was at first very nerve-wracking, right? Like I remember cutting my first promos really of my life in front of like my peers and Dusty Rhodes and William Regal and like, dude, most difficult environment imaginable, like very like, I don't know, I can't think of a better word, but like jaded in the sense of just have seen everything. So it's like topping them is infinitely difficult. You have to be amazing in order to get any type of reaction. Those two just sit there very stoically and you can't read them in any capacity at all. You're like, oh, all right, well, I don't know if that was good or not, but I know it wasn't great because they didn't do anything. So thanks. But I mean, what a creative genius, right? And just like, and that wasn't due to him. I just mean, that was like the environment. I remember like my initial reaction being, and then, but you just hear the critiques and like in the way a genius could like just see everything and sort of point out one little thing. And that one little thing would kind of be the catalyst for this larger change. I remember one time when Finn Balor first came in and he was clearly uncomfortable, and like I said, that's a difficult environment, right? So he did the promo once. I think they asked him to do it again. He did it a second time. And then, Dusty went and had a little conversation with him and basically just told him to he was wearing a suit and just told him, just take your jacket off and take your tie off. And if you need to, take your shirt off while you're cutting this promo and just say and do the exact same thing. And dude, it was an incredible change.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
And you're like, man, how could someone it's so simple, but so and so it was kind of those type of things. One thing that I took away from him that I use and say all the time is he would say, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Right.
Right.
He would often go on this story and it would clearly begin as a real story. And then at some point it would turn to fantasy and then it would and you could never tell. And that was, so he was teaching a lesson in his own way of this is how you kind of how you do that to some extent. So
I always felt like Dusty's the kind of guy, and you could probably answer this question, Levi. When he started talking, everybody stopped talking.
Definitely. I mean, he's not mincing his words, but
right.
He would also he loved burying people, not burying them, but just messing with people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just calling people out or
yeah.
I remember one time I wore a singlet for a promo and maybe, it was this tight-fitting singlet, and I didn't know. There's a monitor behind you, right? So you zoomed right in on my dick and balls, right up. And everyone's just laughing, right? And I'm standing there, I don't know why everyone's laughing. And I turn around and see it, and I'm just oh, yeah.
There it is.
I cut my promo. I'm just
all its glory.
You guys are killing me, man.
What's you're trying to cut a promo in front of legends.
Yeah,
you turn around,
trying to do this serious thing, and everyone started laughing at me. I don't even know.
So did you, going back to when you first started giving those promos, so when you, in college or high school, did you take any kind of speech classes? Were you used to public speaking by the time you got to cutting promos?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't deep. It took me a while to get comfortable in that environment, but my mom was a speech and debate coach. I did some public speaking. I did some parliamentary procedure and FFA in high school.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I have an accounting degree, so I took business communication classes as well. And public speaking was never it was something that was always kind of yeah, I'll do that. I remember in college, if we had a team project and it was no one else wanted to present, I'd be all right, well, I'll show up to all the meetings and you guys can do the work and kind of tell me what's up and I'll present most of it. And most of the time people were yeah, do that. I'm all right, no problem.
Yeah.
Happily, So, I mean, to some degree, I mean, I didn't have any necessarily that was it. I had some formal education, I guess, in that extent and a bit of experience, but that was kind of. Yeah,
do they encourage to after the fact or during the fact to maybe go out and search out maybe acting classes or stuff like that?
Well, so they brought him in, yeah. So we got to work with Howard Fine, which is like a pretty renowned acting coach in Hollywood or whatever. I guess Will Smith works with him and other guys. I don't know, like. And then he had like a pupil that ended up coming down for like a couple of 10 or 12 week, kind of classes or whatever, and he would have like 10, 12 people a day or something, and he would do like 4 classes a week. For whatever, you would have 1 class per week, and it was method acting, right? So it's like Uta Hagen, before was like the root of Howard Fine's work, I guess, or whatever, right? So these are like I read pieces of those books, not all of it because it didn't all apply, and it's like. It's not the most exciting read ever, but it does have a lot of cool information, and it gave me a way more profound respect for, acting and sort of like that process and how you have to go through it. At least what we learned, which is sort of like how to draw on things that you've done in your life or real life, experiences that you have, and so you go through this process called emotional recall, and you kind of like try to take an inventory of moments in your life when you felt a certain type of way. And then when you wanted to, express that type of emotion as a character, you would sort of transfer that particular, the person or the moment onto whatever, whatever moment you're trying to, present or act through. And that was sort of the process of it. So, it was a challenging process, but I enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
So that being said, do you ever take the moment of your own wang being on the TV in front of your face while you're trying to cut a promo? Do you take that moment and use that further in your life?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a little bit of shame and embarrassment, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a rib on another level, man. You start putting a man's
It was a
junk
pretty
on.
good one. I mean, I'm not mad about it. It's funny.
No, it's hilarious. Yeah. All right, so we established that you walked into the Performance Center in 2013, and Heavy Machinery came about in 2016, man. Tell us how it came about.
Yeah, I mean, so originally head coach Matt Bloom put us together, Tensai.
All right.
Yeah.
What was
Bernard, Prince Albert.
Prince Albert.
Prince Albert, there you go. I was like,
Prince Albert, A-Train.
Yeah, A-Train. Yeah, he's got a lot of names.
So he just kind of put you guys together?
He's been the head coach there now for what? 7 years, probably, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he put us together. I think Nico had been in the PC for probably maybe 3.5 or 4 months, maybe a little longer than that. He'd been on shows for like 3 months. Him and Patrick Clark. Before pre-Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark were having opening matches, and I was doing some babyface stuff too at the time, and so Coach Bloom was like, I'm gonna try to put you guys together. We actually wrestled as heels the first time, and it was in Ocala, which is like Central Florida, and it was outside actually in like a hotel pavilion or like a hotel tent, canvas one.
Sure.
But it was in August in Florida, so it was like, oh, dude. I mean, I remember and it was like a 20-minute match. I remember like before the match even started, giving Otis the sweatiest hug of all time. This is going to be it. And that was our one and only time that we wrestled as heels. It was against TM61.
Oh, yeah.
And, and then from then on out, we started wrestling as baby faces. And, yeah, it was I've said in interviews before, but I'll say again, it was like it became apparent fairly quickly that we had something that was going to work out, or at least that there was something there on like a really fundamental level, because I think for 2 reasons. We both kind of grew up in small kind of blue collar, America, if you will, and that was kind of like our upbringing and our values kind of align with each other in those terms. And then we were both, pretty high level amateur wrestling heavyweights specifically. And that's just kind of like, I don't know, heavyweights are all kind of the same to some extent. So it was like, and we just kind of were like, okay, well, we understand this about each other. We're not going to try to like measure against each other. Like I did this, it's just like, all right, bro, like, hey, I love you, you love me. Like, let's go take over the world together.
Yeah.
What's understood doesn't necessarily need to be said. And so, that was kind of, I think within the first couple months, I think the moment that was like, oh, we were like, this is more than just a tag team was, there was a Hurricane Matthew, and Otis was very scared that he was like, because he was living in an apartment. This is what he was scared of, which is like that he was living in an apartment and in front of it was like a pond, like a lake, you know what I mean? Water drain. Because it rains so much in Florida. There's like little ponds everywhere.
Sure.
And so he thought that it was going to flood. He's like, dude, my apartment's going to flood during this hurricane. Like,
wait,
like,
you thought the little pond was going to flood?
Yeah, I'm just like, so I don't know. I'm like, hey, just come over to my house, dude. At the time it was just me and my wife. I had like 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, something, big, whatever house I just moved into, like not that long ago. I'm like, just come over, dude. Like, we'll drink a bunch of beers. We'll hurricane it up.
We'll ride it out. Yeah.
And so, and I just remember like he came over and had like 20 bags of non-perishable goods from Walmart, like bags of jerky, nuts, like trail mix.
He thought you guys
and just like a giant cooler full of beer, dude, and a bunch of Magnum bottles of wine, right? So
please tell me this is when Steaks and Wakes was born. Please tell me.
Probably, yeah. Honestly, because before the hurricane was coming at night, so we called up Sean Hayes, the strength coach at the PC, and just the two of us and him, we got to work out at like 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, and then we went to the store and got some more beers, and I was like, on the way home, I'm like, I'm drinking beers with you today, dude. Like, every beer you drink, I'm going to drink. I'm like, you're a beer drinker, dude. Nah, I'm going to hang with you.
Oh, yeah.
And boy,
it did turn out.
I did, but only because he was like, and I didn't know this till the next morning, but it was like, he'd come over and he'd just check my beer, and if it didn't have some or had some left in it, he would go and he'd pour himself some wine, and then when mine was gone, then he'd bring us 2 more beers, and he'd be like, then he'd finish his beer, he'd check mine, and then he'd go and get some more wine. He drank like, I don't know, a lot of wine.
That should have been some vignettes right there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for letting me do that. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, that's great. All right, but I tried to look up you guys as a tag team, your first victory together. The best I can come up with is you guys beat 2 guys named Mike Marshall and Jonathan Ortegon. Does that ring a bell at all?
That's QT Marshall.
That's QT Marshall. Okay.
Yeah. And the other guy is he's in Dark Order. I can't remember his name.
Okay. But that's what I.
Yeah, that was at UCF. I remember that.
It says TV Victory is what I was.
TV Victory. Yeah, that was like our lone show we had at UCF.
Well, tell us who your favorite guys were to wrestle. Like, who's your favorite tag teams to lock up with?
Oh man, loved working with Forgotten Sons, which was Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake. Now Weston Blake.
Right.
Loved working with Eric Young. Anytime I got to work with him in any capacity. Partner. Loved. Those are probably our favorite 2, I would say.
What was it like working with the Wyatts with Daniel Bryan?
Working with Daniel Bryan and Big Red, that was awesome too. Yeah. I was just thinking of NXT teams. Yeah, them. The Usos were great too, and the New Day. I mean, really anyone on the main roster was amazing to work with. Like, we got to work with the Bar early on. That was cool. Who else?
I love you guys' feud with Officer
Morrison and Miz was fun too. Especially Morrison. Morrison's the man.
Yeah.
I hear he's kind of a goofball, like, backstage. Is that true? Like, he's just always happy and always like.
Yeah. He's like, he always seems like he's loving life,
Who is goofy backstage? Like, who's the 180 from their character? Who's the heel that's actually really funny? I guess what I'm trying to say.
Oh man. I mean, I don't know that he's necessarily that much of a heel, but Randy Orton's pretty funny when he wants to be.
That's what I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody. I mean, he's usually kind of like, he's like in his own area doing his own little thing, like and he's in the locker room, but he's kind of always like in his own just kind of space doing his how most people are. I don't know. Like live events, which we didn't have for a long time there before I left, were like live event locker rooms were the time when you really like joke with people, and because everyone kind of like knew the match or was going to just call it out there for the most part or whatever.
Sure.
TV, like
more loose.
I mean, maybe the first hour or two you're getting to chat with people a little bit, but otherwise, if you're doing something, you're just like from 4 o'clock until 10. It's just
like business time and
this. Yeah. I mean, it should be anyways. It's like
Levi, was technically your main roster debut at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Jeddah?
Yes, yeah, technically it was. Yeah, so I worked a tryout there. It was in Jeddah for like 13 days.
Oh wow, yeah. What was that like?
Honestly, pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was. I think like we got probably a special experience. So the
oh, for sure, yeah.
Canyon Seaman, who was head of talent development at the time, he had made contact with a Saudi national who did half his time there and half his time in America, and so he showed us around, and he had like connections and stuff, and really like that's the deal there in Saudi Arabia is like everyone getting behind the wall is where all the good stuff happens. So it's just like, I guess, so there's two police. There's like the whatever, it doesn't matter, but the religious police, they don't have any jurisdiction in like private places. Yeah. So there's like a beach club we went to that had, it was just like an American beach, right? With like, swimsuits and like regular, it was just kind of a stark contrast from like walking around in public, and seeing very conservatively dressed. I mean, I remember the food being amazing in Saudi Arabia. I remember the Greatest Royal Rumble being like one of the longest days of all time. I think we got there at 9:30 in the morning, and we didn't go on until probably midnight or so.
Oh,
for the Greatest Royal Rumble. So it was a long day.
Yeah. Plus, you're all jet lagged and like.
I was gonna say, what's the time zone over there?
Like 14 hours, 15 hours. Time zone is
I don't even know. It was, what was it?
I guess doing all the traveling you did, you don't really, you just travel. You don't look at the time.
We were living on the East Coast. Because like I said, I mean, we were there for like 2 weeks. So I was like talking to my, wife, and I remember it was like when I was going to sleep, she was waking up. So it was like, I want to say it was 9 hours difference from the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, I mean, it was a different world. I remember we went into the desert and like we did 4-wheel drive Jeeps, and they roasted like whole goats. And we just sat on like pillows on pallets and on rugs in the desert, and there was just rice on the bottom, and then you just picked it off with your hands and went for it. Which I grew up hunting and fishing, so I was like, hey man, I'm all about this.
Yeah,
one of the kids was like, oh dude, you got to eat the eye. I've offered you the eye. It's like a symbol of like, honor. I'm like, yeah, brother, no problem. I'll eat the eye. Like, give me that thing.
Give me them eyes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It was fatty and delicious. Like, yeah, it was. So I don't know. I like, even though I grew up in a town with like 3,000 people, I really love experiences where I get to just like, I don't know, sit back and just watch and listen and like, man, like a whole other place, and. Yeah, it was cool.
I would have been like that loser that's like, do you have any barbecue sauce? And then people would be like, okay, you're an idiot. Go eat some Apple Jacks or something.
They would have told you, they would have pointed out to you like in the middle of the desert or something.
It's like, go stay over there.
Yeah.
All right, so Levi, let's talk about heavy machinery here just a little bit more. Anybody that watches wrestling knows you guys didn't get to have the proper blow off after Mandy blew it all up for everybody. So just talk about that real quick, man. How come we didn't get to see a blow off between you guys?
Well, shit. I mean, I wish I knew. I have no idea.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't ever really get a proper answer. I think the way things happen there in general is very week to week, and there's not a lot of like big picture, viewing.
Sure.
So
Huh.
from the best I could, yeah, surprise, surprise. Right?
Interesting.
What a shocking revelation.
Yes. We just watched the product.
Best I could kind of gather. They had me planned to do Raw Underground, and that was like what they wanted me to do when I moved to Raw.
Okay.
But
Yep.
they hadn't blown off the other story with we still had to do the court scene and the finish there and stuff. And so
Sure.
then they drug that out. And by the time we got around to doing that, Raw Underground had been scrapped. So then they didn't really have anything for me. And, I wasn't really told any reason why that Monday, I had I had a match on, main event the Monday after I turned with Humberto Carrillo, like a,
Mhm.
I don't know, 7 minute. And I mean, I didn't even know that I was going to turn right until I'll tell that story in a minute, but basically I wasn't booked until I got a text at 1:00 that day on Sunday that I needed to come to the arena. Right. So it wasn't like that was when I found out I needed to come. I didn't find out about the turn until probably, I don't know, 4:00.
Wow. And taping
and
and taping starts what time? So you find
well,
out.
this was a pay-per-view, so it started at 7.
Wow.
You
So
know.
so they're like, P.S. You're a heel now. Go go go.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, it wasn't even we had the original plan was different than they wanted me to just not hit him, but kind of look at him, and then they're like, no, he's got to hit him. I don't know. So it was my really one regret of my time there was I wish I would have just said no to that. I was
Mhm.
I said, dude, it was so frazzled. And so basically the way that it went down kind of from the start was I found out on Wednesday afternoon that I needed to leave Thursday morning so that I could get COVID tested, whatever. Cause I'd been moved to Raw, but then I needed to do SmackDown because we ended up doing the El Gran Gordo thing, Dozer in a mask. So I got basically, right. So I'm not scheduled to fly out until Sunday. I get a text Wednesday afternoon. Hey, we need you to leave Thursday morning. And so then I'm boom, I go, whatever, do the deal. And you have an app. It's got dots on it if you have a date. So when I did SmackDown, I had a dot for Friday and I had a dot for Monday, but I didn't have a dot for Sunday. So, I'm stay up and hang out on Saturday and have some beers with the boys or whatever. And
Sure.
I'm actually I'm driving to the golf course at 1:00. I'm going to play golf in Florida. Yeah, I'm off on Sunday. I got TV tomorrow.
Right.
I'm going to go play some golf. And that's when I got a text so I had to turn around and go back to anyways. And so I don't know. I kind of feel like it was rushed and in a sense to sort of so I wouldn't ask the right questions. And it was I'd never really gone through that experience, and it was just, I just
seemed very swift.
I didn't do enough to protect myself in that instance and really be no, hey, what the fuck are we doing after this? Right. And I'm not doing this unless we have a good idea afterwards. I'll take that on my chest, saying that if I ever are confronted with a situation like that again, I'll know better than to at least I'm going to make sure that it makes some semblance of sense. And look, if you guys are going to fire me, not for nothing, but just have Dozer kick my ass, at least have him kick my ass. It makes it makes less than any sense for there to be nothing, right? It's just
Right.
I mean, okay, supposedly you guys you think he's a star and I'm not a star, and that's presumably why things went down the way that they went down, right? With Money in the Bank and from that time forward, whatever. That was the way I took it anyways, and sort of the way that, what I've kind of pieced together essentially is I don't think they appreciated necessarily how much kind of background work that I did for the team, and sort of look, Dozer has the charisma in droves, right? Way more than me or a lot of really anyone. I mean, he's a really special human being, and I'd be the first person to say that. But I also think my ability to speak and be articulate and kind of get out the information that's necessary, it really allows him to be himself and not have to worry about, kind of whatever. So, I think we were a good team, and he was allowed to kind of shine maybe and whatever. So things went down, and I mean, to some degree too. I know like this is my best friend at the time, and we're traveling all the time. Like I genuinely love this guy, and like I don't want to mess up what he has going on either. Genuinely, because it's his dream, right? I mean, I said from the very beginning of this show, hey, like I love doing this, and I have infinite respect for pro wrestling, and I'll love it forever. But it wasn't like my end all be all dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It is his, and I respect that, and so I wouldn't want to do something to mess that up for my best friend either. And I think looking back on it, there was a little bit of that, in kind of the way that whole thing went down too, of like, maybe I didn't push as hard as I would have otherwise pushed because I knew there could be consequences for both of us. And, but like I said, going back to kind of if they wanted to make him a star, it was just, I mean, they had probably, I don't want to be, egotistical and say it was the most over story, but I think the him and Mandy story was at one point in time there, like what we had going on was one of the most invested in storylines.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
And so to just kind of send them on their merry way and sort of have him pretend like in any kind of way somebody like Dozer would pretend like a girl like Manny just never existed, and like he wouldn't be sad about it. He would have no feeling about it whatsoever. They would just like, I mean, sure. I think that's just a smack in the face to the audience, and makes them less likely to invest, and it hurts the character because it just makes people less likely to invest in any story that kind of has that any of those pieces because of sort of the bad taste that. I mean, I know it left in my mouth and all of our mouths, and the kind of the way that we put a lot of hard work into that, and we wanted it to have an awesome payoff, and we think it could have. And I mean, shit, you ultimately turned Dozer heel anyways. So like, I mean, I get it. Like, maybe they didn't want anyone to be heel, so that's why they had them kind of just, but and then like I said, so then you have his best friend, like after the girl of his dreams goes her merry way, and he has nothing about it. You don't have his character even react to it, and then his best friend hits him over the head with the briefcase, costing his opportunity to be world champion, and then he just pretends like that never happened. He's not even going to seek retribution for that. Like,
right. Yeah.
It's erased from memory all of a sudden.
Yeah, then they're just like, I mean,
it's just like, but it's there. It's always, it'll always be a part of it, and it's just like, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. Just like you can't tell me that on a 3-hour episode of Raw you couldn't have given us 10 minutes and
yes,
I'm sure part of that show. Like you'll never convince me of that, But,
right.
Well, they needed to do the 5th recap, like before, what happened earlier on Raw.
Yeah, well, it was good to hear your opinion of that, man. We appreciate you telling us.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was lessons learned, right? Lessons learned, really, as it stands now, and yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm gonna kick you to Primo here for. We're gonna ask you some questions outside the ring, and then me and AJ is gonna talk to you about some other stuff here. So, fire away, Primo.
All right, Levi. First of all, I want to say congrats, man, for being a year younger than me and looking like a grown ass man, while I look like a child.
You do look like a child. Yeah.
So,
and he's 5 foot like a child.
I can go back to 25 if I shave this beard, though.
Yeah. Like I said, I was 89, you're 90, and I look like I'm 20. But anyway, first of all, I want to say, nice Millennium Falcon behind you. I see that.
Yeah, I was looking at all your.
He's a gamer. He's a gamer.
Is that your EV Evolution poster behind you too?
Yeah, the wife and I built that during quarantine, during the original quarantine.
That is cool. Yeah. And then I see the 2 arcade machines as well. Yes. When we first got on, before the show even started, we were talking football. So what is your favorite football team?
I mean, my favorite, if we're talking about all teams, is the Oregon State Beavers. Grew up going to those games forever. I can remember as like a 3rd or 4th grader having peewee football in the morning and taking a baby wipe shower on the way down to catch kickoff at 12:30, and been going ever since. Literally, just they had an 8 p.m. game on Saturday, and I was there. I didn't go until 2 a.m, but it was worth it. And taking my daughter this week, so. That's my all-time fave. As a Northwesterner, I root for the Seahawks. But my favorite NFL team is the Vikings. Love the Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Randall Cunningham Vikings.
Solid.
That was like that was just a team I loved watching when I was like kind of in coming of age, and yeah, see you with your Cubs stuff on over there or whatever, you know what I mean? But that was they were cool back then, man. So I was like,
they were pretty cool.
Ever since, yeah,
They were, yeah.
Especially Randy Moss.
So besides sports and accounting, what other hobbies do you have that people may not know about?
Oh yeah, well I mentioned golf a little bit, but yeah, big golfer, love golf. Obviously, if you watch TV, you have a golden tee behind me. You know, but I also enjoy getting out on the links, if you will, and cursing at the little white ball.
I did that before.
Going Happy Gilmore.
Yes. Yep. Like outdoor activities in general, you know, grew up, like I said, hunting and fishing with my dad. And like this next week, my dad actually just retired like a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to take my daughter. We're going to go clamming we're going to go dig razor clams on Long Beach in Washington.
Oh, that's awesome.
And,
Are you back?
I don't know, like earlier this summer, I went like out in a national forest and took my family, and we picked huckleberries in the national forest. So
Nice.
Really cool.
you know, just stuff like that, different kind of go hiking. It's the Northwest, so there's a lot of really beautiful nature, and I missed it a lot while I was in Florida. I didn't realize how much I loved hills and stuff until I lived in a place that was completely flat and devoid of geographical features of any kind. And I was like, man, this sucks.
Try living in central Illinois, where both Eric and I are right now.
Oh, yeah. My wife has a bunch of family in where is it? Mattoon.
Oh yeah.
Mattoon.
It's an awful place.
Yeah.
They got a nice lake.
I said I'm not coming unless we're going whitetail hunting.
Which you can. There is some whitetail hunting up there.
You mentioned fishing earlier. You like freshwater, saltwater? What do you like to do?
Oh, I'll go for both. Probably have done more ocean fishing than, but have done a decent amount of river fishing too. I remember like my uncle has a hop farm, like hops for beer. Like that's what like small town that I grew up in. That's kind of what we do is hops. That's cool. He has a small river that goes through his property called the Puddin' River. And it actually, like, as I was growing up, smallmouth bass took it over. So we used to have, you know, we'd float it in a canoe or something, and it's super slow and windy, and you know, you could catch, like, on a good day, you could easily catch 30 bass in 3 hours, you know, just not like massive, but maybe 12, 16 inches, just throw them back, but take a little light rod. And yeah, that was probably my favorite. But I don't know, salmon fishing in the ocean's pretty awesome also.
That's cool, man. So real quick, for us dumbass marks out there like me and AJ and DB, what are some do's and don'ts when seeing awesome pro wrestlers like yourself out in public?
Oh, so I would say number one thing, do not go up to people while they're eating. I know that seems very obvious, but like, you know, that, like, I would say that's like, as I know for me, and I've had this discussion with plenty of other people, like, that's kind of number one on the list is like, hey, you know, I get it. You're like, and you may lose your opportunity, but try to, you know, wait until we're like leaving the restaurant, you know, or whatever after that, if you can. I mean, that's, I would say, one thing that can be very upsetting. And then mostly just like being respectful of people's personal space, you know what I mean? And just like, hey, would it be okay if I get a picture, you know, and then, or whatever, right? And that just kind of.
No, I hear that, man.
I guess, like, I would say just kind of like however you would interact with any other human being in the world.
Yeah.
So act like a person.
Yeah.
Act like a person.
Like,
don't act like a complete idiot.
Yeah. Just, I mean, like I said, I understand. I have, you know, people who I have profound love for, and like will have some level of like, holy shit, dude. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, like, I gotta go meet him, or like I got to teach Shaq how to go out of the ring one year at WrestleMania.
That's pretty sick.
I know he's back at WrestleMania, and I'm still like a recruit. I'm like, I got
right.
Shaq. Like,
yeah, there's Shaq.
Great, real quick, I'll ask you one more question for the sake of our podcast, and I'll throw you back to AJ. I ask this to every interview that we've ever had, and this is either going to go my way or Dirty Bird's way, but
All
Bruce
right.
Lee or Chuck Norris?
We keep a tally here, Levi. So we keep a tally.
Oh, Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone who says Chuck Norris is incorrect.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce Lee's legit. Chuck Norris, better showman, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Bruce
he's got a
Lee.
way better roundhouse kick for TV.
Yes,
Sure.
he does.
You know.
Yeah, he does.
Especially
Bruce
when
Lee's
he's wearing
kicking
cowboy
Chuck
boots.
Norris's ass, though, if we're being honest with each other.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Dope.
Chuck
All right.
Norris.
All right. Well, I appreciate you answering all these stupid questions I had. AJ, what else you got?
So I have a couple of things. Well, one more stupid question. This is another ongoing argument that we have. Pancakes or waffles? Got to ask that question.
Oh, my fuck. That's a hard one because I really flip-flop back and forth.
It's
You know,
usually
I know that's
pancakes
probably not
with
an acceptable
roti.
answer. If I gun to my head, I will go waffles.
Another one for the
I'm
waffles.
surrounded by stupid waffle
No,
people.
because it's like I said, it's
It's
just
just so much more versatile than the
Yeah.
pancake. You know, it's just so
You know,
much more versatile.
Yeah,
This
it
is all of you.
Pancakes just
whoever
such a.
says-
It's just a hobo cake. You know, waffles is much more refined.
Yeah, AJ,
That-
your
that's-
peanut butter covered hobo cakes.
I'm never going to order pancakes now in the restaurant without being like, can I have the hobo cakes, please?
Yeah,
And
you get the
that's amazing.
flapjack hobo cakes, please, sir.
So
You're
I'm
a peanut
asking-
butter guy on your pancakes too.
I am, yes.
Yeah,
I
Cubs
think that's like a
fan,
Midwestern
peanut butter on the
thing,
pancakes.
Yeah,
Doesn't like
call
the
him out.
Vikings.
Call him out. Yeah.
Ooh.
People
It's
do,
been
they
downhill
He is a
quick.
Midwestern
Down here,
brick.
you're on thin ice, bud.
You're like, all right, I'm done with this. Stupid peanut butter on pancakes. Asking me about hobo gimmicks.
I got drugged to the Midwest, Levi. I'm originally from North Carolina, man. So I
Yeah,
can't
no one
be-
come here. This is the worst place
I know.
ever.
I got drugged here. I know.
So, Levi, I wanted to ask you about, do you have any, like, I don't know, like fun, like, you know, botch stories, or when you're in the ring, something goes horribly wrong and you have to just like scramble to fix it or something? Like, what are your favorites? Like, you're in the ring, everything goes absolutely wrong.
Yeah, so I remember we wrestled at Download Festival in the UK, which was amazing, right? Like during the music festival, it was
Okay.
like
Awesome.
three stages, and then we had 2 5-card shows during the music fest. We got to watch Guns N' Roses play a 3-hour set after we wrestled.
Fucking
It was
awesome.
amazing. But it was like, you know, so the rings are a little different sometimes in the UK or whatever. Obviously, they're not like shipping the rings across, right? They have they work with a company there and they get the whatever. So the ropes had been used a while, and they so the ropes are just it's just regular like rope stretched tight, and then they put duct tape over it. So when they want to change the color, they just have a different color duct tape. They tape over it again.
Sure.
So these ropes have been taped over several times, and basically, long story short, we were in the Shine still, and I think we were wrestling the Forgotten Sons, and they double whipped me into the ropes. They had both my arms, and I wasn't able to get the rope with my hand in time. So when I went back into the ropes, I didn't catch it with my, you're supposed to catch it with your hand and hold your elbow over the top of it for this exact reason, because I missed it with my hand and my back was sweaty, and so I slipped straight off of it, and I bounced off the middle rope and then straight up and smashed my face right into the top rope, right into the middle rope. And it sucked.
Yikes.
And it was like I can't remember who was came over to me and was like, dude, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, whatever. And he was like, you want to do this other spot? I'm like, no, we're in the heat, dude. We're now in the heat. Yeah. So I remember that one being but I mean, it worked. I remember the crowd being like, oh, but so it wasn't those dastardly thing, but it was, we went with it. I remember I was in a match one time with now FTR, and we were in Jacksonville, and Dash at the time, there was some water on the mat, and he went over to pretend like he was going to slip, and then he actually slipped. That took a big bump, and that was I remember we laughed about that for a long time. After it being pretty funny, I mean, this wasn't with me, but I was in that Saudi Arabia match we're talking about, and that has like the ultimate botch of all time in it, title Neo botch.
Yeah.
Wait, were you
my
in the
God.
ring at that time? Like, had you come out yet? When
I wasn't in the ring.
You were
I
in
was
the
out of
ring
the
yet?
ring.
Okay.
I had been eliminated at that point.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Big E threw you out, didn't he?
I was in the hallway, but it was like I was in whatever room I was in the back had the gorilla feed, like not the whatever feed out. And dude, like they just kept replaying it. I mean, I know they replayed it on TV a lot. But,
It
like,
was replayed a
dude,
lot.
they had it on like a constant loop.
I was
like,
dying.
Dude, you couldn't even catch the match. It was just like on.
I mean, how much shit did he catch after that?
So I mean, dude, like,
it's
so I don't
legendary.
know how much you know about like the way that the ring is constructed, right? But in between the posts is a T-bar that sits right in the middle, and it goes down to the ground. And so, like, I mean, and he went almost in the middle. So if he would have been actually in the middle, like, he would have gotten seriously injured.
Wow.
He would
He
have
would've
hit
hit
under.
T-bar.
Like, he would have hit right away where the apron is. He would have hit like a metal bar that was probably an inch by an inch that went up and down and was like, you know, it wasn't cemented to the floor, but it was like it sat on the ground. You know, it was. He would have moved it, but it would, like, you know, it would have been bad. And like the rail was there too. So if he would have been maybe half a foot taller up, he could have hit his forehead on the metal railing too. So it was very funny, and he got lucky that it was just funny. Like, it would have been the ultimate botch save if he would have crawled under the ring and then popped out the other side.
Or just like stayed under the ring for like an extended period of time. This is where Titus O'Neil lives now, is under the ring, like a ring hobo. We talked a lot about
the
hobos.
VR. He just stays there for the rest of the battle royal, the whole show.
That's where he lives.
All right, Levi, let me talk to you here. Got a couple questions here before we wrap it up, man. So you're on Twitch now. Levi Cooper Live is the Twitch handle. What you playing, man? What are we into? What system you got?
So I got a PS4, the world's worst system to stream on.
It is
what I've discovered, anyways.
Yeah.
It's been a lesson in computer literacy for me, certainly, as I've been neglecting those skills as in my time as a full-time professional wrestler. I learned that. So, I guess it's helped me learn about Streamlabs, OBS a little more, and capture cards and all kinds of stuff. Yep. I mean, I'm trying to work on a PS5, but I would say Fortnite is the main game that I play streaming wise. I've been playing a lot of Mario Golf lately.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome game.
Cool. Mario, anything's always good.
Yeah, I mean, so I intended to, and I still am working on doing like yoga and that kind of stuff on my streaming. That was like initially the reason why I wanted to do it, and then it's just been, my wife started this new job, and I have a baby coming, and like life has just been wild, whatever. So I want it to be perfect, and I'm a perfectionist, so I haven't gotten off the ground with it yet, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm like still, I guess, what I say, like a little bit questionable about my own practice in yoga, right? I don't feel confident enough necessarily to like take it out to the world, which seems, but like, that'd be the truth.
You're doing it with
matter,
DDP, so that's pretty big right there, right?
Yeah. So I've been working on, just started actually in the last week or two, a certification program with his level 1 certification in DDPY. So
that's so awesome.
Working on that a little bit, and hoping to, finish that by November, December, and be able to teach classes in that, and kind of, so basically my grand plan is to create a like kind of a self-care program banner, you know what I mean? It kind of encompasses yoga, other forms of exercise, meditation, nutrition, and really starts out with like drinking water and breathing properly and things that are like, I came to a realization like a year ago that, I was reading a little bit of a book about breathing and stuff, and like, man, like I've been a high level athlete for a long time, and I remember people talking about breathing, but like, I don't remember anyone ever like explaining to me, this is how you like properly breathe to actually like get your diaphragm breath right, and like how you actually produce nitrous oxide, which can only happen through your nose, and just all of these different like things that are sort of the building blocks of being an athlete, that, or just controlling your life in general. Like, your breath is tied to your cardiovascular system in the same way as your heart, but your heart's smooth muscle. You can't control it in any capacity other than, flexing and contracting muscles, but it works on its own. But your lungs, they do work on their own, but you can also control them. And if you learn how to control your breath, like, you can learn how to control a lot of physiological processes in your life. You can calm yourself down, you can get yourself revved up, you can do a lot of things. And I think also just like learning how to do that, and just like, especially in the age of social media where you could like distract yourself on your phone any given second that you want to,
right?
The ability to like sit in a chair and breathe for 5 minutes and just sit there and breathe for 5 minutes, like, is meditative in and of itself. But like, that's a necessary skill, go sit out in nature and just go stare at a tree for 5 minutes. Like, these things I believe are essential to like the spirit of a human being, and is being lost to some extent, or just not as, I think, appreciated as maybe it once was. And I think, there's some simple things that are the key to really having like a healthy being that, are not necessarily super profitable, and that's why they're not discussed all that often. And so it's something that I'm passionate about trying to sort of build around, and is kind of like what I'm going to try to do with my wrestling character moving forward, and sort of like, for a better sense with my life moving forward.
Yeah, that was my next question, man, is, what's next for Levi Cooper? Are we going to see you wrestling anytime soon? What's the plan?
Yeah, so I'm on baby watch anytime now. We're past 36 weeks.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah,
appreciate that. So, yeah, I mean, just being on the road when I was, and just kind of like even being in wrestling in college, and sort of just like having the lifestyle of a full-time wrestler, full-time athlete, really like being dedicated to that. Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, and like, the sort of imbalance that can potentially cause. I've just kind of been figuring those kinds of things out for myself, and really like taking the time and just spending time with my family. Now, I mean, I just like said, my wife, she started, and she's in education, and she just got a district office job. And so, I've been helping, I'm like, okay, she's taking care of me and the family for a long time when I was on the road wrestling, with my daughter. And so I was like, you have this new job. I want you to be able to, go full fledged in it and not have to worry about anything. And also, I guess financially, when you think about childcare, is very expensive. And so it's like,
oh yeah.
So I've just been staying home, and I'll stay home through the end of this year. And I just kind of made that commitment a couple months ago to her, just as a, it's what makes sense for our family right now.
Yeah.
And so I've taken some bookings in 2022, and I will take more bookings. And so, I will hit the ground running here in 2022 and do some wrestling. Mainly, I want to just wrestle on the indies for, at least 6 months, probably more like a year, because I feel like I have some creative exploration that I want to do for myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want the pressure of having to have like any kind of polished television product. I want to be able to just try things, fall flat on my face if I need to, and sort of just feel like I have the freedom to do those things, right? I mean, only wrestling I know is inside of WWE's system. And so I want to, before I, wrestle on TV again, I want to just kind of figure out exactly who I am inside of the ring, outside of, heavy machinery. And I feel like, I have an idea, but you got to get reps, right? And so
that's a really cool point of view.
Yeah. Well said, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the indies, and what you can come up with.
Been doing some jiu-jitsu too, so potentially going to do some like pancreas matches, or something along those lines. Think about kind of like, I mean, I know some people know to pay attention, but I feel like a lot of people that just kind of know me as Tucker and WWE maybe don't know like how legit I actually am, and still am and can be, and that like it might behoove me to remind the world a little bit, like, yeah, if I need to whoop some ass, I can actually whoop some ass. Probably wouldn't want to fuck with me, you know what I mean, or whatever. Right. Even though I don't portray that on a regular basis, I guess, or whatever. it is, I guess, it's an important factor in terms of trying to, kind of move forward in the professional wrestling business. And I recognize it as such. And so, kind of that's been also kind of beneficial of the time I've been taking to just sort of like, all right, well, if I'm going to build a new wrestler and it's going to be the house, like what am I going to build that? What's that look like? Right. Like, it looks like, okay, well, the foundation is like amateur wrestling, because not only is that like the physical thing that's given me what I have, but it also kind of has given me the mentality that's gotten me to where I am in my life. So it sort of is the foundation of me to some extent, so it has to be, I think, the foundation of my wrestling character. And then I've been toying with this thing called with Levi Cooper, Force of Nature, and sort of like, I guess, like, I know violence. I understand violence in the same way that nature can be extremely violent and volatile. It's also this like really serene and peaceful place that's extremely calm and like is necessary to be both of those things, right? And to like understand both of those things and be able to kind of move, unilaterally between the two of them as a character is something that I think as a basis, it could be pretty cool, and it's sort of going to be what I explore early on creatively.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, Levi, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us here today, man. I could sit and listen to you for hours, man. This has been fun. Thank you for telling us some stories along the way, and we really appreciate you being on today, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's been fun. It's the hour flew by.
Even though you're wrong about waffles.
Everyone's wrong about
shut up, AJ.
My daughter, hey, if it's worth anything to you, my daughter loves pancakes way more than waffles. So.
Oh yeah,
I got one.
Your daughter,
she
Dad.
ultimately decides. So I probably crave waffles because I eat pancakes all the time.
That's fair.
Right,
That's fair.
Probably so. Well, Levi, thank you so much. Go follow Levi
man.
Cooper. That's real Levi Cooper. And also go follow him on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Levi Cooper Live. Thank you once again, Levi Cooper, former member of Heavy Machinery WWE Tag Team. We'll hopefully have Levi back here sometime. Thanks for downloading and subscribing to the show here today. I am the Dirty Bird for Primo and AJ. We are the Sit Down Marks, and we will see you next time.